So we're here today to honor the legacy of Mr. Dom Famularo. And this will be emotional, this will be full of laughter, full of memories. And I think the big mission here is for us to carry his legacy forward. And that was really what his life was about. He really looked at his life from the view from above, as I like to say. He was a servant hero, and his life was dedicated to a higher meaning. And he really lived that every day, which was full of laughter and giving and putting out his absolute best into what he did and the world. So let's just start really quick with just a memory of how Dom maybe entered your world, or even if you just might have not met him personally but saw a video, or yeah, you just might be new to him, or you might have some very precious memories where he entered your world. So I'm going to start with Stefan. Can you just what's I know you got thousands of memories with him, but what's one that represents kind of what he means to you in your world?
Well, Dom was always trying to push you and getting you out of your comfort zone. So every time you were comfortable with something, like for example, and I've been telling this story, it's a small one, but still it represents pretty much how he was with everything. When we went in New York City for pizza, every time he was asking me, Steph, what do you like? And I was like, oh, I love chicken and vegetables, and he was like, great, now pick something else, pick something you don't like, just so you can try it
Oh,
again, or try something new, he was always pushing me. And yes, you like it, Jack? You like Dom? But I met Dom when I was 17 and studied with them for more than 15 years, and then we became partners with the books and the clinics. We did many clinics together, and he was always coaching me. Every time he was always like a father and a teacher. So every time, even if it was for just calling to know, hey, what's up? He was always teaching. Always teaching, like, hey, Steph,
mm-hmm.
how's the house? Oh, the house is great. And now you have to always keep a little bit of money and put that money. He was always teaching. So that's he was always on. Sometimes we're in
Mm,
life, we're on when we do like shows and we teach, but we go home and then we're kind of relaxing and we're not on 100%. But he was always on phone calls, and always in his best way, of being and inspiring people and teaching. So yeah, that's a cool memory. Pizza in New York City.
that's amazing. See, that's, of all the memories you have, that kind of captures the essence, right?
The big things are good, but sometimes it's just the
Yeah,
small things that you're like, oh my God, it's interesting.
exactly, Steph. Yeah, thanks. And what I'm hearing, even in your body language, and as you do kind of your imitation of him, it's like the enthusiasm. It's like enthusiasm is the fuel. It's like, Steph, try something you don't like, man. Like, we're
Yeah.
here. Let's do this. New York City, be in the moment. His enthusiasm was unfreaking paralleled, right?
You always like,
Yeah. Right. Yeah,
excellent.
you must have met him before. You got it perfectly, right? And also, you're right with the standards. I remember he was so influenced by Buddy Rich, and he said one thing you got to understand about Buddy is, and he would do these surveys of drummers, like, who saw Buddy Rich, and people would some people would put up their hand, and he's like, who's inspired by Buddy Rich, and more people put up their hands, and he'd say, who can remember Buddy Rich having an off day? And no, people kind of laugh. People would always go, like, Buddy Rich have an off day, and that was one big thing Dom Famularo took from that. Like, let's Like every time you show up, every day, every time you're in the moment, give 110%. And when you think you're giving your best, give me more. That was one of his lines too. So that's a great memory. Andrea, I know you're new to this. Do you know Dom at all? Or are you just being introduced to who he was and as a drummer? Is that correct?
Hmm, I think on drama yoga he gave some lessons
Yes.
through video, and there one can feel this lively
Mm-hmm.
emotion of him. He was, yeah, a bit emotional.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Well, yeah,
He,
well
he
said.
laughed and teached and had so much fun and said, "Yeah, let's do." And yeah, I think it's this this imagine.
Well said. And I'm so happy that Dromio got him on in the last few years just to capture his enthusiasm and his soloing and his playing and his knowledge. Like I've watched that one episode on how to become a 21st century drummer like so many times. There's so much knowledge there. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. So it goes into all the grips and just how to have complete freedom and expression on the drums. So that's amazing. Abdallah, can you share your memory that you shared a couple weeks ago with him? How he came
Sure.
into your life?
I went to a clinic maybe 20 years ago or longer. It was by Sabian artists, and I was in college at the time, and of course, a little bit overwhelmed with syncopation and new breathe. Uh, Working on my four-way coordination, I went to Dom and said, Dom, syncopation or new breed? I'm in college. I don't have that much time to practice. And he goes, ha, do both. That's my memory. That's
Do
it.
them both. Do it in the Dom voice. Do them both. Yeah.
Do both. Okay.
Exactly. That captures his essence there. Like, go for it. And it's like what Stefan was sharing. He was also like a mentor to me in other ways besides drumming. And really one of the OGs of the which inspired me for the concept of life through rhythm. The type of drummers we are is the type of people we are. And our characters come out through our drumming. And it's like one and the same. And I can remember asking him advice on, starting a family and like, yeah, I just got married. We're, thinking of having kids. And I'm like, do you have any advice? I'm really nervous about this. And he's like, pull the trigger, pull the trigger. Just do it. And he's like, you'll figure it out. I'm here for you. And just such an energy for life. And we all have these memories beyond just drumming, which is the drumming. I think that's so powerful. Goran, welcome from Croatia. Welcome, my
Oh,
friend.
so
I'm glad it's you. I didn't know who you were at first, but now it's the light is there and your name's on. That's awesome. Can you share just I'm curious how Dom Famularo came into your life because you're from Croatia and Dom, I don't know how many countries he went to, but my gosh, what a worldwide impact like no other, the global ambassador of drumming. So
mm,
curious if you could share that.
I saw him. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Um, Always having difficulties. Uh, I I was introduced by Dom in the beginning of the internet when I saw some YouTube or some other service clips, and then I saw him in Zagreb, our capital. He he gave a clinic. There was only a few people, and that's maybe one time in my life that I saw him that he was not in a good mood. He was not laughing. He was not like him. But I think I learn a lot about him and his attitude, and through his drum methods, books, and just an amazing person, very inspirational person, very positive person, wonderful person.
Outstanding. And Goran just shared a clip of me with his daughter drumming, and like we're carrying it forward. You're carrying it forward. His spirit, to people in our circle, our family, if we're educators, other drummers. And I love what you said about the beginnings of the internet. Let's think about that for a second. The beginnings of the internet. I also remember that maybe late 90s where he was really pioneering. I remember like Vic Firth's cyber lessons, and it was like, I remember I would like load it, and then I would like go away, and the bar would take like 45 minutes, and it was like
That was
literally
that was
2
in
minutes.
America. In America, in
Yeah.
Croatia, we take a longer time to get
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah. And actually, maybe Stefan could clarify this. Wasn't he given an award or a recognition from Skype? Because it's like, we just want to acknowledge you as one of the very first to spread music education on our platform. Is that correct? Like, this is like
I
2001?
I don't know. I don't know. I just remember that from the VHS tapes, he was recording the lessons on VHS and then on DVDs with the burner, and you had to wait because the burning took so long. And then USB keys, and then with iPhones and everything, at the end it was easier just to by yourself, record anything. And Skype, you can record on Skype and Zoom, but to see the evolution. But he was one of the first drum teacher using Skype, and he was
For
traveling the
sure.
world. He was one of the greatest, traveling everywhere around the world and getting students from everywhere. And I remember he told me like back in the days he was asking the students to send VHS tapes of their playing, and he would review the playing, get the
Hmm.
money, send back the tape, and he was starting this international way of teaching. And when Skype started, he saw this as a huge opportunity just to teach more people and continue the process with all the people he was meeting and all the students, which is amazing. See where we are today.
Yeah.
Pretty common after COVID to do
Right.
that, but back in the days it was rare. It was amazing.
Exactly. And him as a pioneer, like he's really the reason I went full on into open-handed drumming. You got to think like he had 37 years of playing traditional cross, which is fantastic. But he's like, I really need to look to the future and push myself, like you said, Stefan, like get out of my comfort zone. So it's like, I'm going to do a match grip. I'm going to saw my hi-hat off with a freaking hacksaw, drop it down, challenge my weaker side, and explore this new chapter of myself open-handed. And that was 2002. And he did that right up until the last day of his life, constantly looking to the future, constantly being a pioneer, constantly stretching himself and inspiring others to do the same. So a real respect for history, but also looking forward with bravery into the future. So I think that's such a really powerful balance, and that's amazing. So that captures that. Michael, I'm curious how Dom found his way into your orbit and how he impacted you, because I know you have a lot of memories with him.
Well, with Dom, my first experience with Dom is that I actually got an email from Charmaine, his wife, and saying that I had won a free lesson because I'd signed up for a mailing list. And I remember coming home after a really bad day and I'm sitting in my little studio here getting ready for my first Skype lesson. And I never used Skype before ever. And I had thought, well, it's I'm trying to figure it out. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to call him or if he was going to call me. Like I didn't know it, so I was kind of more intimidated about the process of getting connected rather than the actual experience of meeting Dom. And it got to be like 5 o'clock and nothing had happened. And then it was like 2 minutes after 5 and nothing happened. Now it's 5 after 5. And I thought, okay, well, I'm not sure if I'm screwed something up or whatever, but I won this lesson. So it didn't cost me anything. If it doesn't happen, that's okay. And then I think it was 5:07. I got an incoming call from Dom and I clicked on it. And that was kind of my first personal connection because he's one of those icons that everyone has known throughout kind of like all of their drumming career through, Modern Drummer and all these videos and things. And I had a bunch of teachers that had studied with them and they had recommended that I do this. And I had my little practice pad and I'm all set to start doing some hand technique exercises because Dom was a master of that. And we touched no drumsticks. We talked nothing about technique. He just started asking me questions and he wanted to learn about me and he wanted to learn about some of the things that I was dealing with. And my mother had passed away, a few months before that. So that was something that I was kind of dealing with. And I kind of felt a little bit lost. And we just talked. And by the end of the 1 hour session, I felt energized. I felt focused. I had stepped away from education for a while, but he got me back into education. He made me feel valued. And I thought, here's a person that doesn't know me at all, that has thousands of students and probably tens of thousands of people that he had met. But right now, I feel like the most important person in the world, and I had his undivided attention. And I remember going upstairs afterwards and my wife said to me, how was your lesson? And I said it was probably the best lesson I've ever had. And I burst into tears because I was just so overwhelmed and so emotional, but not in a bad way, just in a way that I thought someone cares, someone's listening to me, and someone believes in me in ways that I don't believe in myself. And that was kind of the start of my Dom journey. And then I was a student of his for a number of years afterwards, mainly online. I did go out to his studio in Port Jefferson a number of times. That's where Stefan and I actually met, at Dom's place. We were there for a Klaus Hessler private lessons and masterclass experience. And so that kind of just expanded the community. And he's been a cheerleader for me throughout my career. Even if I hadn't taken a lesson for a while, I could just send him a text and I would get really fast responses. And he would just encourage me. And I was writing a blog for a while, and he would want the PDF versions of my blog because he printed them out and he gave them to students. He said he actually had a file folder in his teaching studio of blogs that I wrote, and he would assign them to people that were dealing with specific challenges. And I kept thinking, this is really unbelievable to me, because here is a guy that I just remember seeing in Modern Drummer magazine, who I now literally have a personal connection with, who believes in my value and my worth. And as Chris and as Stefan know, I did for my podcast a special tribute episode to Dom, which I posted in the comments here for people to check out. And I had collected all of these stories to send to Dom as a way to perk up his spirits. But unfortunately, we lost him a little bit sooner than we expected. So it ended up turning into a celebration episode. But I reached out to students and I reached out to friends and I reached out to teachers and I reached out to industry icons that I've never met, that have no reason to know who I am or respond to my email. And I was blown away by the submissions that I got from people, because everyone just loves Dom, because he's not there just to, as everyone's saying, he's just so energetic. He picks up, energizes a room, but he does that because he believes in you, and he will support you and he will believe in you, but you have to do the work. That's the whole thing. He can change your life, but he's challenging you to do the work. And it's not up to him to change your life. It's up to you to change your life. And if you're doing the work and doing the effort, then he's there to cheerlead you and push you on the way. And one last quick thing here. One of the things that I'd said in my Dom tribute is that at the time, I felt like an industry outsider. Like I felt like nobody knew who I was. I was working really hard to establish myself and just kind of develop figure out my place in this whole thing. And then I met Dom Famularo, and he opened the door and invited me in. And ever since that time, my whole community just changed, because now I have connections with legends and icons and teachers and students and all of you just all gathering for this thing. And it just invited me into the community, and just having that support and that encouragement from everyone else just changes your life. So it's an absolute pleasure and honor for me to be here and just share this experience with all of you.
That's outstanding, and the honor's ours, Michael. Absolutely. And I love what you said there about challenge and encouragement, kind of that line, because I know, like, I have a friend that Don Bureau knows, Carl, and he told the story of going to like New York City and he was studying with somebody else I won't name and Dom, and he had like some lessons with both of them, and he left the first great player, like great drummer, but he left feeling like this small. He's like, man, he challenged me, but I just feel like I'm this big now. Like, oh, I just, this is gonna take me 100 years, and there's so much I don't know. And he was like challenged, but he left feeling really kind of discouraged. And then he said, and then he had some lessons with Don Famularo, and it was like the opposite. He was challenged, he got his butt kicked in a good way, but he left kind of what you're saying, Michael, like walking on a cloud. He's like, man, I feel like I can take on the world. I feel like I can do anything. And I think he had that gift. You're right. You had to do the work. He did not coddle anybody.
Nope.
He would kick your butt because he knew you had it in you to accomplish great things. But that line of challenge and encouragement together was one of his gifts. So fantastic. And I know we could fill many hours with this. We'll move on to why we're here. Jono, by the way, he's just typing in the chat, and Jono met Dom at the Drumeo performance in 2020. And he's saying Dom's spirit was infectious. You couldn't help but feel incredibly positive after you had a conversation with him. Such a special man, not only for drummers, but all musicians who endeavor to get better at their craft. Very well said. So I'll put it over to Dom Bureau, who was a student of Dom Famularo's in the last years of his life. And he was blessed to get a recording that he gave his blessings to Dom. He said, share this when you're ready. It's kind of my message, in this last time of my life and for the next generation, and to carry on his legacy. So Dom Bureau, if you could just share a little bit about what this message is you have, and maybe how it came to be, and maybe a memory you have.
Oh, well, where to start? So just a quick background. So I started drumming in 2020, in January 2020, which is about this week, 4 years to the date that I started. So I'm a late bloomer. Always been drawn to the instrument, but never really got to start, but always wanted to. And at some point in mid-January 2020, I got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of mental issue, a lot of problems going on. I couldn't focus on anything. But at this point in my life, I said, okay, so there's a whole bunch of things, but if I don't start now, I will never do it. So funny story, I'm military. So I'm in my office and I asked the officer that I work with, because he took guitar lessons. So I asked him, where did he went to for his lessons? Because I want to learn drums. And he said, well, Captain Sloman upstairs in the office, right above mine. Carl Sloman is actually, that's where he works. So it's like, he's the drum teacher at the school, so you can go. And I walked up the stairs at this exact moment, knocked on the door and say, hey, you, pointing at Carl, you, I heard you're a drum teacher. I want to be a student. So you got to teach me. And that's how it all started. So I started with Carl. Then through Carl, I met Chris. And because the pandemic started, we got in the pandemic in March. So I did a little bit over a month, and then boom, isolate. You can only imagine how crazy it was for everybody, but for a guy that just got diagnosed with PTSD, way out of his, things were all like, but Carl really helped me. And at some point, Chris did a few Q&As and just get together. Stefan was in a couple of those. It was
Mhm.
really great. We met a whole bunch of really, really amazing people, and Dom actually came for one or two. And the first thing that hit me is one day I'm going to study with him. One
Mm.
day I'm going to sit down and we're going to have like, I want to learn from him. I like his energy. I like his personality. Everything about him is just amazing. So fast forward about a year working with Chris and Carl told me, I think you're ready. You should text Dom and ask if he can give you a couple lessons. So Saturday night, I'm still by myself in Kingston, not knowing anybody, and it's a Saturday that I'm a little tipsy. So sent a message to Dom via Instagram, just a DM, say, hey, I'm studying with Carl and Chris. Would be interested in lessons, taking lessons with you. Not thinking that he would answer me for a while because I've been watching videos. So, and within the hour, I got a reply saying, "Hey, I'm checking my schedule this week, and we can get together." So by the Wednesday, that's when I started, and then we did all sorts of technique, mostly technique. But the one thing is, I don't know if I just can't repeat what Michael and what everybody else said before. It's just the energy, the positive, the way he energized and he believed in you. And even today, I got totems here. I got a picture that we got at his birthday. And on every single snare that I have, and I told the other guys, but Stefan, I think I have WWD1D. That means what would dumb one do? Because we had that thing, we called it ourselves the dumb squared. And every time in my head I have self doubt, I'm like, what would dumb do? It would freaking believe in me, and it would want me to go and to just do it. And yeah, that's and what I have here and what I want to share with you tonight is the last session that I had with him. I was able to watch it by myself once since I had that lesson with him, and it was the week before his birthday, his 70th birthday, where we went, and so just a week before, and he said I want you to record that, and he just and it's just a heartfelt discussion. So I'm more than honored to share it with such a great group of people, and yeah, in his honor, I'm gonna actually share my screen and we can watch that.
Just to ask, so he asked you to record this. He
Yeah.
was like, capture this. Okay.
Yeah. So that was his wish, and he said at some point, if you want to share it, there's absolutely you should definitely do it. So without further,
You can have this. Yeah, there it is, to have this for the future. You know, it's kind of interesting, Dom. I'm, I'm, I'm hoping to make it to my 70th in the next couple of weeks, and the 26th of August, and then my oldest son Dominic is getting married the end of September, and I wanna be there for that. And I have had a wonderful life, and I have found the balance of my career and my family. I mean, my family, my wife, and my three boys, that's the magic for me. By having my children have given me life. I was reborn when they were born. And to see them grow up and do things, and now they all have girlfriends and they're all developing their own lives, to see this, it's such a beautiful gift to see that because of drumming, I've been able to, purchase a house and pay it off, have a nice little piece of property, have a nice studio, and be able to live a life playing drums and performing and teaching. I miss playing the drums because I don't have, my hands are numb. I mean, I can hold the stick and I can play the pad here, but on the drum set, the numbness in my hands and my feet are numb. I feel like when I walk, my feet feel like two cinder blocks that I don't feel them. So when I sat on the drum set, I couldn't play it. It sounded terrible. I couldn't time when my feet and my hands were playing. So I put the sticks down and I thanked the drum set for the years of wonderful joy in performing around the world. There was a solo that was recently put out on the internet on my Facebook page from Poland. And it was a solo that I had in a small little town in Poland. So I have played in over 60 countries. And when I got to Poland, we played in 6 or 7 different cities in 8 days. You know, we drove and set up and sound check and performed, and 500 people would come in, and I'd meet them all and I'd shake all their hands. And what I would do before every performance, I would go out to the crowd and shake everyone's hand before they entered. I'd shake everyone's hand. And then when they all came in, when they announced me on stage, everyone at least shook my hand and felt that they knew me. So this was a very important technique because it made the people closer to me. So when I walked on stage, I wasn't walking on stage to meet them for the first time. I was walking on stage to meet friends. And that was a major part of the success. So when I was in Australia, there was a lineup of 1,500 people to the show. And I went outside and shook everyone's hand. And they were so amazed that I would walk out. They were taking pictures and video and stuff. And I got such a kick out of the fact that I shook everyone's hand. When I walked out on stage in Australia for the Ultimate Drummer Weekend, when they announced when I walked on stage, I was the only one that got a standing ovation when I walked out on stage. And I think the people just respected the fact that I respected them. When I was in China, there were 3,500 people at an arena that I was performing with Dave Weckl. So we had gotten to the arena and the people were lined up outside, and Dave got his pad out and he started practicing. I said, Dave, we go on in a couple hours. I'll see you in a couple hours. And Dave said, where you going? I said, I'm going out to shake everybody's hand. He said, Dom, there's over 3,000 people out there. I said, yeah, it's going to take me a couple hours. So I said, I'll see you on stage. And Dave laughed. Well, I went out there and I shook everyone's hand. And by going out there and shaking their hand, these are people in a foreign land who don't even understand the language. We had to have translators, but they were able to feel the passion when we got on stage. But when I got on stage at that show, I was able to have such a wonderful reception from the audience in China. And, you know, when you see 3,500 people stand for you in appreciation of your talent, it's a memory that is beautiful. And we all can do that. As you develop your skill and you start playing with bands, you're going to feel that. And just remember, everyone in the audience is your ally. You know, I always believe I want to develop allies, people that are sharing the same vision that I share. I want allies. I want more allies in life, because when I have more allies, going through life the way I've gone through has been sheer joy in the people that I have met and what I have learned. And that's why I say the key to the fountain of youth, which I feel I have tapped into. And even though I'm being cheated of years, my parents lived well in their 80s, and my grandparents lived well in their 90s. So I always thought I had another 15 to 20 years in me. Well, I don't. And the fountain of youth to me is if you decide to be a constant student, to always learn and develop and build the growth process of who we are, both as people and as artists. Because when you develop who you are as a person, you also develop the artist. Interesting enough is when you develop the artist, you also develop the person. Because I learned higher levels of discipline. Self-discipline is self-control. I've always been a proponent of discipline and exercises that I got from people like Joe Morello and Chapin and Shelly Manne and Joe Porcaro and all these, all these great drummers. All the exercises they gave me were strengthening my level of concentration and strengthening my level of discipline. Well, the stronger my discipline got, the better a student I became. The better a student I became, the more qualities I learned as a person. So the cycle of that person and artistic goal is the commitment of being the constant learner. That really is the fountain of youth. I talk about Ponce de Leon, who was the explorer in the 1400s that was hired by the Spanish to find the fountain of youth. Well, he died in Florida and he never found the fountain of youth. Well, I tell people, I found the fountain of youth. It's the ability to be a constant student. So I say to you, you have that same ability as you are now learning, and now with the acoustic drum set that you have, oh my gosh, you are so set to grow and learn, and you've got some great teachers that are, that have been under my tutelage, Carl and Chris, yourself and Stefan and Stephen Gendron, all these guys have been under my umbrella, and I'm so proud of all of you because you guys are continuing on the goals of what I have set. So when I'm long gone, you'll have these recordings, you'll have these lessons, and you'll have these memories to continue pushing yourself to be the constant student. And someday when you want, cut this video of what I just spoke about, put that on the internet, and let people see that our lessons were more than just drumming lessons. These were lessons that were about inspiration, motivation, and the ability to inspire someone to aspire. You see, inspiration is when someone is motivated by someone else. Aspiration is when you motivate yourself. So if I can inspire someone to aspire and they continue motivating themselves, then that means I will live forever with that person. And that to me is the greatest gift that anyone can have.
Thank you, Dom.
Thanks.
Thank you. This is so.
It's hard. It's hard, Dominic. Yeah, it's really hard. Facing our mortality is a difficult journey because when we face our mortality, I lose all the relationships that are so close to me. My wife, my boys, my students, my friends, all of my external family. I have to say goodbye to everybody. And when I say goodbye, it's a matter of hopefully I'll be remembered. I've got a lot of video out there that people can go back and see what I've done. But to be remembered in a way that celebrates a life lived well, that I was able to inspire people to aspire and travel the world to, as I said, over 60 countries, performing and playing and meeting so many great people. It's been amazing to see what's happening. And
through your students, and your students, you said it earlier. You're gonna your name is etched in stone in the music forever, and that's all I can say. I don't know what to add to this. It's just amazing. It's like
there's a new book coming out about Steve Gadd. It's going to be coming out soon, and they asked me to write a quote for the book. And I said in the book, I am so lucky to have lived in the time of Steve Gadd, because hearing him play on recording or seeing him live or playing with him and working with him as I have at many festivals, he has set a standard so high. He set it as high as Picasso and Mozart, that these are names that will be around forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I just hope that I can be remembered in a way that is, a positive lift to people, and in a way that inspires people to aspire.
Mm.
You know,
Oh, you did, you rest assured you did, and you're still doing it.
crazy, right? Well, let's get down to some drumming,
Yeah.
Dom. Let's see, we
Yes.
got a few more minutes here. Let's see what we got here.
I want to see you drum. Don't cut it off.
You see me every week.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
I never knew the guy, but I'm in tears.
It was such an honor to study with him and share those moments with him. Like, yeah, he was taken from us way too fast, way too quick. But yeah.
I'm so glad you recorded that and that you just captured that moment, because close to the end of his life, 7 good days and bad days, and that was a good day, and that was, yeah, just amazing. You captured that, and I think that really is his essence right there, his message. And yeah, it's like he was here right now. That's his essence. Any reflections? I'd love to hear from you guys. I got a couple here that struck me. First off is what he said about the type of people we are is the type of drummers we are. The drums capture our character, and one way to constantly remind ourselves of our greatness is to surround ourselves with totems. I've challenged everybody here, and some people are like, well, I don't have any totems around me. And some people, I say, have a minimum of 3 around you to remind you of your greatness, right? And someone brought this up a couple of weeks ago. It's like, you ever seen Dom's background? He's the totem king. Like thousands, memories, people he's met, inspirations, stuff from Jim Chapin and stuff. So it's just cool in the background. I was kind of thinking that, like, every one of those, the chimes, I'm sure there's a story there. Maybe Stefan knows, but like just all the memories he has. And that reminds him of like his mighty why. I just thought it's really cool. It's like, man, don't have 3 totems around you. Have surround your whole, go nuts. And I love how Dom surrounded himself with that, reminders of why he did this and people that made an impact. And so that's just cool to look at the background of that and to see like all his memories and things that meant to him. I love he said, I thank the drum set. I thought that was very powerful. I've heard Victor Wooten talk about how he does that as a practice, gratitude. And I know, Dom, last week you shared the gratitude practice that Dr. Pamela gave you, morning and evening, the bookends of the day. So I was very impacted that Dom said that. And just to, yeah, like we don't, I think Abdallah, you said this a few days ago, we don't have to do this, we get to do it.
Yeah, if I may, the one phrase or the one thing that he said that had me in tears was when he said, I miss playing the drum set. My hands are numb and my feet feel like cinder blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, we, you know, I woke up a little bit later today, so I'm I'm just gonna work on the pad and then go to work. Right? Look, before our hands go numb, just play your drums, guys. That
Mm-hmm.
I think I think that's gonna stay with me forever.
Mm-hmm.
If I wake up a little bit later tomorrow and I think to myself that, oh man, I have to go to work, I'm not going to work until I play my drums.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, I think it's gonna stay with me forever. Of- You know, in fact, I think I'm gonna change my totems,
Mm.
and one of them is gonna be play my drums before my hands go numb.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Write it on your drum, man. In ink.
something.
Something.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
gonna change my totems. At least one of them.
Yeah. They evolve. They constantly evolve, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that the power of gratitude. Gratitude is just so powerful. And yeah, that really struck me. The shaking hands thing. I had heard that, and that's a little trick that I'm like, I'm gonna do that too. It really does work. Like it kind of takes your nerves away. It reminds you of why you're doing this, and it connects you with the audience. And it's like a great little magic trick that puts you in the right kind of zone and focuses you on being a blessing to other people instead of getting wrapped up in your own thoughts. The inner critic and all that. You get in the right space to get into flow and to be that servant hero. But I hadn't heard the story of China with 3,500 people, and Dave's like, I'm gonna practice. He's like, I'll see you later. 2 hours I need. I'm gonna shake the hand of every person. And how in Australia and China, how the audience felt it, and they had a standing ovation, and I
You
thought
could
that was
you could
beautiful.
definitely hear me chuckle when he told the
Yeah.
story. I just burst
Yeah.
out laughing.
And how his value of humor, of course, how even in dark days like that at the end, he could use the tools of, like, gratitude as a tool and humor as a tool. And these are totems, right? They remind you of these things every day. The constant student, we were just talking. It's funny that all our memories we did to open the session, we can hear them in what he said, that,
And one of the things that I got from Dom too was the value and importance of relationships. And he always
Mhm,
said to me in almost every lesson that one of my biggest assets is the relationship that I have with my wife. And he said, because there's a lot of people who a lot of their challenges or struggles are based on the fact that they're not partnered with someone who supports them and encourages them and inspires each other. And he would always say to me that that was for me, one of my biggest blessings. And it's that importance of relationships. And what that gave me now is when I'm in situations where I get a chance to, meet someone that's a hero of mine or someone that I respect, it takes the intimidation factor away, because now I just look at things and always say, you know what? It's all about building relationships. And I will never
mhm,
regret that awkward moment, or that I kind of stumble a little bit in a conversation with a hero, but I will always regret every opportunity that I never took to
mhm,
say hello or to tell someone how much I admire and appreciate them, because we're all a community, and it's something that we all need to look at. Is this, you should never be afraid to reach out. You should never be afraid to tell people that you value them, and you should always surround yourself with people who just support and encourage you, because we all have, people in our lives that are not supportive, and we just need to expand our community and get that support. And that's one of the things that I love about these sort of sessions, and one of the things that I will always value about Dom. As I said earlier, like I said, I felt like an outsider. Dom opened the door to the community and let me in, and it changed my life.
That's outstanding. And what we say is legacy is the lift. So it's like, who are you lifting up on this journey through your drumming? I know, Joan, what you were sharing recently about just the power it gives you when you're drumming and you look at it, people dancing, and the effect that music and drumming has. It's like, it has been for thousands of years. This is a massive power that we tap into to make impression on others. And I like that Dom talked about that in that recording you captured, of just the legacy being the lift, who all the people he affected in his life, and that we're sharing his memory right now. And one like this, I'm working on getting my book out, the Life Through Rhythm book, and it's going through re-edits and all this stuff. It's a challenge, and I was literally this morning going over this part of like regrets and to keep your death close. And that was one thing Dom always did, was he always looked at things from the wide view, and just, I know I'm here for a short time. Let's go for it. And just how powerful it is to like not just to fight against that regret. Abdallah, you just said it, when you to just have no regrets. And I put in the book, I remember meeting this, I used to do these senior drum volunteer circles, very powerful for folks, just, you mentioned community, Michael. So imagine like 30 seniors in a room, they're just doing what they can with percussion, and the room kind of creates this rhythm, and it's very magical and powerful. But you get to hang around with seniors that are close to the end of their life. And there's this one guy, his name was Ernest, and I'll never forget it. He just looked me in the eye and he said, "I wish I left a bigger footprint in the sand." And that's how he put it. And he had a lot of regrets. And so I think if we just keep that really close, like, this is a short time, and let's just constantly take steps forward. So it's okay if we fail, like you just said, Michael. We're gonna fail along the way, but just have no regrets, and just to keep that front and center. So he has always said that to me, and I've heard him say it to others, but he mentioned it there, and he was literally facing his mortality and still talking about that message.
And as you know, he was working on a book called Owning Now, and he was working on it for years. And I hope at some point we see some semblance of it. I'm not sure how far along it got, but I had bugged him for years and said that I want to buy the first copy. So as soon as it's done, so I've always, every lesson, I'm like, I'm ready to give you my money. So you need to get the book out. And that was kind of the incentive, but it was all, his whole philosophy was, it's about owning now, because you don't own tomorrow. You don't know what tomorrow brings, and you can't change yesterday. It's all about just owning now. You don't own an hour from now. You only own this moment.
Exactly. Yeah. Stephane, any impressions from that? If you're able to speak.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it really shows like how he was. And I believe that when he was playing, he was doing it for the right reasons, right? When he was teaching, it was for the right reasons. And I feel like when you're really sick, you become more on, who you are. And it's like seeing Dom pure, without all this energy that he was using as a tool to motivate and, inspire people. But the core of who he was, you can really feel it when you watch the clip, right? And that's what I felt when I was taking lessons and playing with him. So this is really who he is, the essence of who he is. So he was such a great person. It was reflecting on everything he was doing, and that's why he was able to motivate people and help people that way, because the core of who he was so good. He was a good man. So that's what we felt there. Amazing.
Yeah, he always said to me, great people serve. Great people serve. Be a servant hero. I thought that was really powerful. Yeah, and that's true. Yeah, it does capture the essence. Don Bureau, I'd love for you to share. Okay, so you were in these sessions. That was a few weeks before he passed, and at the end of it, you've spoken about this before. It's kind of like, let's drum. It's right at the end, like, let's pick up the sticks, let's go for it. Can you talk about that for a second? Because you've kind of shared that before.
Throughout his entire treatment. So I don't know how many students he kept, but he had a reduced schedule, and there was a few students that would still get lessons. I was blessed to be one of them, and that the topics we were talking about were a little different, and we were just every lesson we would just sit down and have like 20 minutes catching up, talking about life, how we was doing, what was happening, and then I would actually talk about my stuff, and that's pretty much how he introduced me to Dr. Pamela, who's my neuropsychotherapist, who actually changed my entire life. As we're speaking, I'm telling him that I'm going through a rough patch mentally, and I'm reacting, and I'm getting angrier and angrier as the day go by, and that's just part of PTSD. And I see him grab his phone and he's like, "Hey, I got a friend that I would like you to meet, and she probably can help you." And he, on his phone as we're talking, send an email to Dr. Pamela, and that's how I met her. And then it's like, okay, now that business is taken care of, let's play drums. And even though he was just getting back from a treatment that kicked his ass, and he would tell me like, "My ass is kicked, but let's do this," and we would go through stuff. And every lesson that I had with him, he let me record them, and I actually watched myself through like my evolution through it, and it's just amazing. But it's those little moments where just I got as much, if not more, by the conversation, as Stefan was saying. You could the man himself would, just by the way he's interested, the way he's that was enough to motivate me. Just the fact that I was in contact, and I was having a heart-to-heart conversation with someone like him, and he would listen, understand, and just being himself was just enough for me to. Right after, I would practice for 3 hours, just because the motivation that he'd give me every time. But all the lessons, even though he was sick, he was down. He never let that like got to him. He was just always that same person saying, "No, keep going, keep going." Even though he was down, he would actually try to motivate me and motivate everybody every day. And so yeah, and I'm trying to live by what he wrote on my in my book, and he wrote, because I got him to sign autograph
please
my
share
book.
Please share it.
And what he wrote in it is simple: Dumb 2, because I'm second half of Dumb Squared. Dumb 2, enjoy every note you play, and signed by Dumb 1. So, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm like. Stefan, I know you're part of the mentors that are going to be giving lessons, and part of the group for the Dumb Famularo Mentorship Award. Just so you know, I sent my video. I was sick as a dog. I have no freaking recording stuff here. It's probably super horrible, but I did it because I thought to myself, I was like, Dumb would have wanted me to do it. It doesn't matter if you suck or not. And that ties back to what you were saying, get out of your comfort zone. And to me, it was totally uncomfortable. The only way I could record myself was with my cell phone on reader here, and it's just like bad lighting. Everything sounds just horrible. And as I said, I was sick, like headache, splitting headache, but I did it. And just that, it was for me, it was like, okay, I can do this, even though it's not my best thing. I can do this, but yeah, that's the spirit. That's what I got from everything that Dom was saying. Get out of your comfort zone, try stuff, because if you don't, nothing good will happen. Just push yourself all the time, and yeah,
Yeah,
got a
that's
lifetime of learning. And then the other thing too, and we talked a few times about that. It's like at some point, if you want to start teaching and sharing what I taught you to some people, and actually I started doing this. I got some friends, a little bit in my situation, which complex PTSD and a lot of mental health issues for past. So one of my friend like combat related injuries and things like that, and I'm actually helping them by just what Dom taught me, like all the technique stuff on a practice pad, and I'm trying to emulate that every day with what I do. The kindness and the generosity that he had. It's just something I'm trying to do with everybody now. I'm just, if I can be 1/10 the man he was, like, that's good. But I know I can be better than that. So
yeah, yeah. I love the spirit of like, we don't need to be as good as those great people, but we can walk alongside them. You know, the Einsteins, the Picassos, the Don Famularos, the great people of the world. Yeah, I know what you mean. If I can just be a little bit of that, then I can be a better version of myself. And that's really it. And I love that spirit of like, the obstacle is the way to succeed even in adversity. Like when the world's falling apart around you, can you still keep taking steps, small steps forward, and embrace the suck and just improve by 1%. And it's easy to talk about it, but it's those that do it that are the real inspiration. And Dom has, of course, talked about that to us all. But when you see him going through chemotherapy and losing all the weight and suffering and facing his mortality, and then still showing up pretty much until he passed, to show up for people. He was in pain, couldn't feel his feet, and he still, yeah, he like was a living example of that. Like, can you still show up in the adversity and not wait for that? You know, we talked about regret today. You see a lot of that, right? Like, oh, next year when things are better, I'll get to that. Someday. You know what? I'm not going to write my book right now because I'm really busy. Like, can you still do that in the adversity that's around you and still enjoy every note you play and still show up for the bigger, you know, your mighty why? I think he was a real living example of that. And that's why I wanted you to share that. Like, let's grab your sticks. Let's do this. It's not like,
Hey,
oh, I don't feel like it. No, we can't control any of this bad stuff around us, but we can pick up our sticks and still take one small step forward.
page
hey guys.
46. Oh,
Oh,
page
go ahead.
yeah, page 46 of stick control. Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey, do it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, speaking of grabbing the sticks, can I share something else with you that I
Oh, please,
noticed?
yeah.
So, I saw Dom at a clinic once. That's when he told me about stick control, or not stick control, new breed and syncopation. And I was at the time really getting into Muller, and I was, you've probably all seen him come down onto a crash from way up here and then hug it, right? And
Yeah.
and I was really getting into Muller then, kind of lost and changing my fulcrum and whatnot. And I noticed on the video at the very end of it, or where Dom stopped it, he went to grab the stick, and I don't know if you can see, it looked like fulcrum or grip here, and this was extremely relaxed. And I'm going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was really cool to
Cool.
see. I remember back then wrecking my brain with technique and watching Dom at that clinic and how fluid everything was, seeing him come down onto a crash from like what appeared to me to be 10 feet up in the air and going, dude, it did not break. Was awesome. And I saw his hand on the video that Dom shared. Uh, and I was like,
Right.
yeah, I remember that too.
And actually, right away in the first video I saw you playing Abdal, I was like, oh, you've got that fluid momentum. You really got that as a part of your play, and so there you go. It's paid
I
off.
I try. I try. I
It's
try.
a work in progress, right? We're the
Yep, yep.
eternal
Thank you.
students.
I try.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing that. As we wrap up today, does anybody want to share any impressions from watching that?
Yeah, I'd like to, Chris.
Please.
I I've been drumming for 60 years, but I feel like a rookie because I didn't even know Dom Famulara's name before I signed up for LTR, and I'm just so inspired to aspire from everything I've heard today. I mean, Michael's testimonial was just put me in tears, and I'm a couple of months younger than he was when he died, and I can't imagine that I lived so long as a drummer and not heard his name and not heard his incredible message. And I'm gonna do what I can to remember that message.
Yeah, you just celebrated your 70th, 70 years young.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he talked about the fountain. I've heard him, like Stefan, and Michael, like people that know him a while, the fountain of youth, he, I love looking at drumming that way. And I was telling you about the seniors, like there was one lady, she was 102. Her name was Laura. And yeah, she just seeing when she drum, like she light up. And Dom's right. Yeah, it is the fountain of youth. So we're lucky to have you here, Clark. And I'm sure, again, like just keep your mortality in view, right? So that's
Live every moment.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It makes it a gift. Like Abdallah was saying, it's like we get to do this. We pick up our sticks. Like I'm not going to work until I hit the pad a little bit, and I did it, and I felt that connection. So yeah, thanks
Well,
for sharing that,
Yeah,
Clark.
yeah, man, like work and wait 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
well, and
But
yeah,
yeah.
I just want to remind you people, I did put in the chat the link to my Dom tribute episode. So if you want to hear stories from a lot of other people, some of them are very
Yes.
funny, some of them are very heartfelt. Dr. Pamela has a story on it, Chris is on it, Stefan's on it, David Garibaldi, Joe Bergamini, Simon and Phillips. Like there's a lot of legends and stuff on, and then some just students of his, but just hearing their testimonials and their experiences is just really inspiring and uplifting. So if you want to hear more, I would encourage you to check that out as well too. We're all particularly proud of that one.
Yeah, it's the memories, and they're priceless. And he always talked about the urgent, the essential, not the urgent. And the urgent can just kick your ass. So I got all the stuff I got to do. Like I got to get to work. I got the emails. I got this and that. The essential, like he shared, with your family and your what does drumming mean to you, and those are the essential things. And I think that's why that was one of the things that was such an inspiration, such a light that he's shown to other people, was like keep that in view. What's essential, not the urgent that can blind us, right? So yeah, thank you everybody, and big thank you to Dom for sharing this. Like what a treasure. Yeah. was
I
like
miss
he
him
was.
every day. I miss him every day, and I'm really, really happy. I'm really honored to have shared that with you, all of you. And I love the community. I love everybody. It's so nice, and even an old dog like me that just started, I felt so welcome, and the respect that, like, yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you,
it's
man.
it's very powerful.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you to everybody. And as we said, gratitude, right? And as we go forward, like we'll meet here soon. You know, we do this next week, same time, and let's just play in his honor and keep this going ourselves. That was one thing that really struck me in my last times with him and watching that video again. It's like it's our turn now. Like his chapter's done, and it's up to us, and we gotta, in his words, own our now
Mhm.
and give our absolute best. And when we reach our deathbeds, we know we're dying empty and we died meeting our potential, and we're just blessed to do it through drumming. So I am so happy about that every day. This is crazy, this is fun, this is challenging, and we're blessed to do it, and I'm blessed to be here with all of you. So I'll see everybody real soon. Right on. And this is recorded so we can watch this again, and I know I'm gonna. So thank you, everybody. Stay
Thanks,
inspired,
Chris.
stay strong.
Bye
You
bye,
got it.
everyone.
See you guys.